Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of SAF Insights. Today, we'll be talking about book and claim, what it is, how it works, and why it's becoming increasingly common in the SAF market. I am Giulia Squadrin, Associate Editor for Argus Biofuels, and joining me today is Max Eichelbaum, Digital Solutions Manager for RSB, Roundtable on Sustainable Biomaterials. Hi, Max, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Giulia, for having me. Thank you.
So, shall we start with a very general question? What is book and claim?
Well, maybe a quick note about my background. My name is Max Eichelbaum. I'm RSB's Digital Solutions Manager. I joined the organization 1.5 years ago with the mission to develop a book and claim registry. So that has been a quite interesting journey so far, and it's really great to see the traction we received with our book and claim work. So this is I'm very happy to be here today to explain a bit what is book and claim and bring the subject a bit to the wider audience, why it's important. So very happy to discuss this with you. So what is book and claim? So book and claim is a chain of custody approach which allows sustainability attributes to be decoupled from the actual product, and then these sustainability attributes can be transferred separately. So this is the general concept of book and claim. Book and claim has been, like the chain of custody approach has been around for a long time, but now we need to make sure to kind of find a proper implementation into specific sector requirements and respond to industry and customer needs. So this is really what we are dealing with when we talk about book and claim, right? So the chain of custody model is known, but we need to really work on a very robust implementation, making sure that there's no fraud happening and that we build kind of a credible system here. So and the real big challenge here is we can put out a system that is very robust, but maybe it's very hard to use for the industry. And then if at the end of the day, no one uses it in the industry, then we don't drive any impact, right? So the challenge here is finding the right balance between efficiency and flexibility of the system, but then also being robust enough to ensure that we have a credible claim for the end customer, right? So that's our book and claim, and that's why book and claim is quite present right now in many conferences and many conversations. It allows us actually to transfer sustainability attributes separately from the physical product, but we need to make sure that we have a proper implementation in the different sectors, and such as aviation.
Thanks, Max. I think maybe we can touch a little bit more on the risks around the system later. But if you mentioned the aviation sector, so in maybe a little bit more color around that. So in which cases can book and claim be used, and why is it useful in particular for the aviation and the SAF sector?
Yes, well, as slightly or already mentioned a bit, book and claim is a very interesting solution for hard-to-abate sectors. So in other words, sectors that are very energy intensive and where emission reductions are very, very difficult to achieve. And aviation is such a sector. So as an aircraft engineer, I can promise you that the aircraft you see at the airport today is the airport you will still see at the airport in 10 years. So those airplanes, the design we have today in place, will be around for at least another decade. And then maybe in a decade, you will start to see kind of a transition to new energy modes, such as batteries or maybe some hydrogen solution. For the long term, for the long international flights, however, we will rely on liquid fuels, and if we want to reduce emission, it is SAF we need, and that's the reason why book and claim here is very interesting for the SAF sector, because it allows actually to consume the SAF in one location where it's available, but then on the other side get customers paying for it somewhere else. So to maybe give you an example, so let's assume we have an airport that has SAF supply and has some airlines flying with that, or we have airlines that could fly with that SAF. And then we have on the other side customers around the globe that would be willing to pay for the premium, but they don't have access to that SAF. So with Book and Claim, we can actually decouple the sustainability attributes from the SAF, where the SAF can be locally supplied. With that decoupling, I register those sustainability attributes to a registry. And with that process, the SAF becomes a conventional jet fuel because the sustainability attributes continue to live on a registry. On that registry now, I can transfer virtually those sustainability attributes and the underlying claims to another customer that is somewhere else on the planet, right? So that's really the biggest advantage of Book and Claim in the SAF sector. So I can supply the SAF in one location. However, I can have a customer paying for the SAF in another location because I can transfer the sustainability claims virtually. So in a nutshell, also, what are the general advantages of Book and Claim in the SAF sector? So first of all, we can enable cost sharing of the fuel price premium. Today, we know that SAF is substantially more expensive than conventional jet fuel. We're talking about factors from 3 to 5. Even if we go to synthetic SAF, that can be up to 10 times more expensive than conventional jet fuel. And for airlines, this is very critical, to pay for it. And with Book and Claim now, I can actually, again, find customers around the world that are willing to pay the premium and allocate that money to a location where the SAF is available. Then there's a growing demand of corporates for in-sector solutions. So there's quite an interesting actual development I have seen throughout conference I have visited the last year, that there are more and more corporates abandoning their carbon offsetting programs because they cost money and they come sometimes with a bad reputation. I don't want to suggest that all carbon credits are bad, but sometimes we have to ask ourselves if those carbon credits or carbon offsets really are purposeful. And companies are seeking more and more in-sector solutions, so meaning they do an investment into emission reductions that is directly connected to their operations. And that means, for instance, a company that has high demand for business travel, so their employees flying around the world, they can invest into SAF to reduce their footprint from their activities. So an in-sector solution, growing demand is definitely there, and I see that trend just becoming much bigger. And at the end of the day, there are no alternatives for a company than to reduce their emissions if they want to have an in-setting approach than using more or less Book and Claim. Another advantage is bridging the gap between the limited supply and global demand. So I mentioned it. SAF is today very only regionally available. So there are just a very small amount of SAF producers today, and that is because of the lack of demand they have, because of the price premium. It's very risky for investors to put their money into new SAF production sites. So what we can do now with Book and Claim is we can bridge the gap between the supply and the demand that is globally scattered. So we can bring demand from Europe into regions where the SAF can be supplied, and with that we clearly also signal to the investors the opportunity there is, a growing demand for SAF, and with that we are bridging the gap between the two different constraints we have in place today, so that the SAF is very locally available, but the demand is globally scattered. And then I think this is also a very important point. I personally think it's super important to address this. book and claim is also a great opportunity for emerging economies to participate in the SAF market. So as it is structured today, is that emerging economies are rather feedstock suppliers for SAF productions in developed regions, and with book and claim, actually, we enable them actually to produce the SAF also locally. So being part of the game, producing the SAF from the local feedstock they have available and use the SAF where it is produced instead of shipping feedstock or SAF around the world so it can be used somewhere else. So I think, with the mission to reduce emission, that makes very little sense to ship SAF around the world to be used somewhere else. So that would be, I think, the main advantages of book and claim and the importance for the SAF sector.
Thanks, Max. I think it's clear there's several advantages you've just mentioned in this sense, and it's quite interesting to see these systems develop in a developing market itself, like the SAF one. But in this context, what does specifically RSP do, and how does the RSP registry compare to other registries that are out there?
Very good question. So generally speaking, the RSP is a non-profit organization, and our work is or our mission is to create a positive impact, right? We are a multi-stakeholder organization, so we have stakeholders from different categories. So that is, of one side, the industry, but also, there are other NGOs, we have academia, we have research, other environmental organization members or being members of the RSP that help to contribute to the decisions we make. So we have a multi-stakeholder governance process in place, and decisions are always made on a consultational feedback. So what we usually do is we start to develop a standard, and then we bring those propositions to the broader audience and ask for feedback if they think the needs are met to really drive positive impact. So I think that's a very important foundation to mention RSP's mission here in the book and claim with its book and claim work. On top of that, also RSP operates a sustainability certification system. I think also this is very important knowledge to have to develop a system that allows the virtual transfer of sustainability attributes that are linked to the certification of the SAF. And to overcome all that, what I have mentioned before, like the challenges we see in place, the RSP has developed the book and claim system, which consists of the RSP book and claim manual, which is the normative guidance for book and claim. The second component is a digital, or the RSP book and claim registry. So a digital account and transaction data storage system. Maybe a quick background here. So all started with the RSP book and claim manual development for the aviation sector, and we had back then developed an Excel-based registry. And with the increasing amount of interest and pilots we were running in the book and claim space, we realized that there is a need for automation. It became quite work intensive for us to manage this Excel-based tool manually. So we decided to develop a more automated, sophisticated system just to deal with the pilots and do testings. And then throughout, the system became more sophisticated, and we decided to develop a full registry and make this tool available to others. So that's something we launched last year, November. So that is also part of the book and claim system. And then we have the RSP book and claim recognition procedure, which is a normative procedure for a registry ecosystem. While developing our own registry, there were other independent registry developments going on in parallel. So we realized, okay, there's actually a need for harmonization. Yeah, so that we make sure that there are other system risks we see with having multiple registries at the market are tackled. And, one of them is, for instance, double counting. So we developed this RSP recognition procedure to also develop an ecosystem of book and claim registries, making sure we are all moving into the same direction and harmonizing systems and potentially even, have some sort of interoperability in place at one point where the systems can communicate with each other. And making it also, of course, easier for new participants in the book and claim space to enter the space and find kind of a more harmonized situation, because otherwise, it can be very confusing to organizations, to end clients, to suppliers, airlines, etc. To adopt a new system, and if there are so many different approaches to it. So this is something we want to avoid, and this is also one of RSP's main effort actually to get book and claim really correct, bring a solution to the industry that really drives impact, right? What else is there to say about our registry? I think the biggest point and what sets the RSP registry aside here, it's really a great entry solution for companies. So we have a very, I think, compelling pricing model. It's proven, it's robust. We have tested our registry in multiple pilots. The good thing is as well, and that's the reason why we have this RSP system developed, there's a continuous improvement happening. So we developed the registry, and with the registry, there's also a lot of feedback, from the system requirement side, but also, doing transactions that help to reshape also the book and claim manual, again, providing an improved normative industry guidance for book and claim. So the registry has been a very important tool for us to shape the RSP system, but also to help new market entries to evaluate their business model, their business case, and understand, how book and claim could work for them. And here I like to highlight also that the registry we have developed and other registries we see emerging right now, those are chain of custody tools. So they are there to track the sustainability attributes of the SAF. For the RSP registry, commercial agreements between the partners are managed outside the registry. So there's no commercial activity happening on the RSP registry. We might see other registries in the future that enable trading of the sustainability attributes from SAF or of SAF. But our focus is really providing a very solid, robust chain of custody solution to track the sustainability attributes, commercial activities happening outside the registry. To summarize, the RSP registry is a great entry solution, and we also. It's very difficult also to probably develop a registry that covers all the regional needs you have at one point, maybe. So what I see as well is that you have, different registries fulfilling different end client needs because they have some specific sectoral needs. For instance, the aviation sector has specific needs to a registry maybe, and then you have maybe the marine sector that has different needs, and here you might need to have another registry. So the underlying concept of book and claim should be similar, but then at the end you might have some, sales platform, some sailing, some other integration requirements with national databases, etc., that require probably some registries having some specific features available to customers, and to cover all those different needs and features would be impossible for RSP to do. So we are in support actually of building an ecosystem and providing specific customer solution as long as we all follow the same guiding principles that we try to put in place.
Thanks, Max. Yeah, I think it makes sense. It's already a challenge to harmonize the SAF market. I think that adding several other sectors could be even more
Yeah.
complicated. So yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah. Maybe just one last question then. We touched on the system itself and on the advantages and the uses of the book and claim system. But is there any risks? Are there any risks around it? Maybe of fraud, of double accounting of emissions, and if so, how are these risks mitigated?
Yeah, that's a one of the key motivations for us to work on the RSB recognition. So there is a perceived risk of double counting today, and yeah, that's really the reason why we developed the RSB recognition procedure. But maybe taking it one step back, let me quickly explain. Actually, there are different types of double counting. So and they can be managed differently, and I think they're also critical in a different way. So when we talk about double counting, we talk about double issuance, double use, and double claim. So those are three different types of fraudulent activities you could do to make money from out of thin air, if you want. So we need to kind of tackle those different types of double counting scenarios, and to maybe quickly explain what they are. So double issuance is if I have a physical product and the sustainability attributes for that product is issued or registered on multiple registries. Yeah. Or for instance, the product I have used to decouple the sustainability attributes and put them on the registry have been still sold with a physical product, right? So that shouldn't happen. So there's a double claim on the same physical product that shouldn't happen. So that is double issuance. Then I have double use, which is where I have the sustainability attributes, we call them book and claim units, already registered on a registry, and they are sold to multiple customers, which shouldn't be the case. And then there's double claim. So when at the end there is a retirement of the sustainability attributes of the SAF, so they are claimed by a company and they get locked on the registry and can't be transferred any further. So they're claimed, and we need to make sure that the claims or the retirement statements that are used are not claimed by multiple companies. At the end of the day, it's a PDF, and that PDF could be modified, and multiple companies could actually claim emission reductions connected to the same retirement statement. So that needs to be also avoided. So, and I can tell you with certainty that double issuance is the biggest risk we see today. So the fact that a supplier could register the sustainability attributes, the decoupled sustainability attributes from, for instance, SAF to multiple registries. This is very hard to control because we don't have any interconnections between the registries today, and that's why we developed the recognition procedure. The double use and the double claim is something easier to manage because they're within actually the registry system boundaries, right? So they're within the system. And that means, if I can, assure through an audit that I can't actually transfer the same certificates or book and claim units, as we call them at RSB, to different customers, then this risk is eliminated. And then also if I have a double claim risk, this can be overcome with having, for instance, a public retirement table. So the RSB registry has a public accessible table with all the retirement statements that were produced. And that means actually, so if there's an auditor in a company that does some accounting audit for an end client, they have a QR code on the PDF provided by the end client that can. With that, they can verify actually the entry in the public table and assure that the document they have in their hands or on their computer is correct and hasn't been modified in any way. So and this is all part of the recognition procedure we have developed. So the normative procedure for a registry ecosystem. So in the recognition procedure, there are RSP book and claim menu requirements we need to have in place, but there are also technical requirements we put in place, recognized registries need to fulfill, and that includes you know, that the system can't, for instance, double use or double or prevents double use and prevents double claim from the system side. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we need to develop this interoperability aspect where registries communicate with each other, so we can actually assure that when a supplier registers certain sustainability attributes of a SAF on one registry, that they can't be registered on another registry. So there need to be some sort of a control mechanism in place, and the RSP is working on a research study this year to really find the best pathway to enable the interoperability of multiple registries. And that is, you know, that is our contribution to really reduce the risk of double counting. And I hope at the end of the year we will you know, reach that first milestone to have kind of a technical approach to it. And yeah, and maybe a final word to the recognition procedure. So the recognition procedure went through, as I mentioned, to a multi-stakeholder consultation already. So we have that feedback. We drafted the final version recently. So right now it's in the internal RSP secretary review before it goes to the RSP board approval. And then with that, we have the first, you know, guidance in place we can use to recognize other registries. And that is starting very soon. So I hope we will have the recognition procedure publicly available at the end of Q1, beginning of Q2. So with that, we can start to really build this registry ecosystem.
Thanks, Max. Yeah, sounds like work in progress, but
yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. I think we will wrap up here for today. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been really interesting. I've learned a lot on the book and claim. I've read a lot about it before, but it's good to hear firsthand how it works and the steps that you will be taking to improve the system.
This, you know, for many it might be a bit confusing hearing this the first time, a bit abstract, and I totally understand this. So I can also invite the listeners to visit the RSP website. We have a dedicated area on our website explaining the RSP book and claim system. You also can look around at the information page on our RSP registry site. So that is all available on the RSP website. So I invite you really to go there and you know, read up on it and to build a better understanding on our work. And if there's anything RSP can be helpful with getting you onboarded into book and claim, you know, reach out to us. Our contacts details are also available on our website.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more for the listeners, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to tune in for the other episodes in our series SAF Insights. And for more info on the Argus global coverage of the SAF market, please visit argusmedia.com/SAF. And with that, thank you very much again, Max. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm sure we'll hear more from you and RSP going forward.
Thank you, Giulia, for the invitation and the opportunity to, you know, explain a bit more of our work to the wider audience. Thank you very much for the invitation.